Hello and welcome to the Minimum Competence episode for Thursday, March 20th, 2025. I'm your host for today, Andrew Leahy, a tax and technology attorney from New Jersey. On today's episode, federal workers in limbo, a Disney investor vote on LGBTQ policies, a judge's warning over deportations, and Musk's legal battle over government records. Let's remember, truth is stranger than fiction, but it is because fiction is obliged to stick to possibilities and truth isn't. And read today's legal news. On this day in legal history, March 20th, 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson took a decisive step in the fight for civil rights by federalizing the Alabama National Guard to protect marchers participating in the Selma to Montgomery March. This action followed the brutal events of Bloody Sunday on March 7th, when peaceful demonstrators advocating for black voting rights were violently attacked by Alabama state troopers on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. A second attempt to march on March 9th, known as Turnaround Tuesday, ended without violence, but still lacked sufficient protection. Johnson's decision to federalize the National Guard came after Alabama Governor George Wallace refused to ensure the safety of demonstrators despite mounting national pressure. With federal troops in place, the march proceeded on March 21st under the protection of U.S. Army units, the FBI, and the Justice Department. Over 5 days, thousands of demonstrators walked the 54-mile route to Montgomery, with their numbers growing to 25,000 by the time they reached the Alabama state capitol on March 25th. This federal intervention was a turning point in the civil rights movement, demonstrating the government's willingness to enforce constitutional rights against state resistance. The Selma marches galvanized public support for voting rights and led to the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which outlawed discriminatory voting practices. Johnson's decision highlighted the power of federal authority to challenge systemic racism and protect fundamental freedoms. Thousands of probationary federal employees ordered reinstated by federal courts remain in limbo as the Trump administration fights lawsuits over workforce changes. Courts in Maryland and California ruled that roughly 25,000 employees must be rehired, but many are on paid leave instead of actively working. Some workers fear they may have to return their back pay if an appeals court overturns the rulings. Attorneys representing federal employees say agencies are slow to restore full duties or compensation. Ashley Ashworth, a reinstated Health and Human Services worker, said to Reuters she was rehired but given no work, making her uncertain about her future. Adding to concerns, Trump's broader federal agency reorganization plans could lead to further layoffs, with probationary employees at the highest risk. Judges have pressed the administration for details on when affected employees will return, emphasizing that indefinite paid leave is not permitted. While agencies claim they are taking steps to reinstate workers, some employees have only received vague instructions about returning to duty. With legal battles ongoing, many fear their reinstatement and pay may be temporary. Disney shareholders are set to vote on a proposal urging the company to withdraw from the Human Rights Campaign's Corporate Equality Index, which ranks businesses based on LGBTQ+ friendly policies. The proposal, backed by the National Center for Public Policy Research, follows similar exits by companies like Lowe's, Ford, and Harley-Davidson, which faced conservative pressure to scale back diversity initiatives. This effort aligns with broader conservative pushes, including those from the Trump administration, to dismantle corporate diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Those are DEI programs. Disney, which holds a perfect score on the index, has previously faced scrutiny for its opposition to Florida's Don't Say Gay law. Similar shareholder proposals in the past have received very little support, typically failing to reach more than 2% backing. The proposal also references backlash against brands like Bud Light and Target over LGBTQ marketing. Disney has defended its transparency in such matters and called the proposal unnecessary. A federal judge warned the Trump administration of potential consequences if it violated his order temporarily halting the deportation of Venezuelan migrants. Judge James Boasberg expressed skepticism that revealing deportation details would compromise national security, especially after Secretary of State Marco Rubio publicly shared flight information. Despite the order, 3 planes carrying deported Venezuelans landed in El Salvador, leading to questions about whether the administration defied the ruling. Boasberg requested details on the deportation flights, extending the administration's deadline to provide information. Trump's administration pushed back, arguing that the judge was overstepping his authority and that executive branch decisions on deportations were absolute. Meanwhile, Trump called for Boasberg's impeachment, drawing a rare rebuke from Chief Justice John Roberts, if you could call it that, who stated that appeals and not impeachment are the proper response to judicial disagreements. Boasberg initially blocked the deportations, ruling that the 1798 Alien Enemies Act did not justify Trump's claims that the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua's presence in the U.S. constituted an act of war. His order came after 2 deportation flights had already taken off. While some planes landed after the ruling, a third took off after the written order was publicly filed, raising further legal disputes. The administration defended its actions, arguing that some deportations were based on other legal grounds beyond the Alien Enemies Act. The Trump administration is appealing a judge's order requiring Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency, or DGE, to provide records related to their role in reshaping the federal government. The Justice Department argues that the order, which demands Musk and DGE disclose information to Democratic state officials, raises serious separation of powers concerns by compelling a presidential advisor and White House-affiliated entity to comply. The dispute stems from a lawsuit by 14 Democratic-led states alleging that Musk and DGE unconstitutionally exercise power by cutting federal programs, downsizing agencies, and accessing sensitive government systems. U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkin's ruling allows state officials to request documents and written responses, but stops short of allowing depositions or direct questioning of DGE officials. Trump himself is not subject to the evidence requests. New Mexico Attorney General Raul Torres, leading the lawsuit, argues the DGE must provide transparency regarding its actions. The case follows other legal challenges against DGE, including a Maryland ruling that found Musk's involvement in shutting down USAID likely unconstitutional, and another requiring DGE to comply with a Freedom of Information Act request. The administration may escalate the fight to the Supreme Court if the appeals court does not intervene. And with that, and as always, I thank you so much for listening to Minimum Competence, your daily news podcast for lawyers. If you're looking for more than Minimum Competence, links to further reading on all the topics touched on today are in the show notes. And reviews go a long way towards helping new listeners to find our show. If you have a moment and can leave a rating or review on your podcast player, we'd sure appreciate it. And if you know someone that might be interested in a story we cover, consider sending them the episode. But remember, nothing here should be construed as legal advice because it is certainly not that. Minimum Competence is available at minimumcomp.com and wherever it is you get your finely crafted podcasts. If you haven't checked out the website in a while, give it a look. There are complete transcripts and resources for each episode and its corresponding segments, as well as an opportunity to receive new episodes in email, newsletter, form. We'll see you back here tomorrow, and until then, remember, all you need in this life is ignorance and confidence, and then success is sure.